I'm at a disadvantage. The clock is behind me, so I have to keep looking there that I don't go too long. But I've got my glasses tied up in here, so maybe I'm ready to go in the seniors as well. Yeah. I was at the meeting on Thursday night with so many of you as well. And I was happy, my wife, to come here today to hear the comments. But what I'm hearing, more than anything else, is frustration. Now, we have gone over all of the consequences that will come from the P3, that will come from leaving Miramichi Lumber permanently closed. It will come from obliterating Hebert's state-of-the-art operation. But we have not come up with a plan of action. It's fine to do research. It's fine to strengthen our arguments. But I was elected in 1971, and through a lot of elections since then. 12, as a matter of fact. Elected 12 times. I was the mayor of Newcastle. I was the mayor of your city. I served 20 years as your MLA, both in opposition and in government. Last time you elected me to be your representative on the Horizon Health Network on the Health Board. I will say, before I go any further, I've been through a lot of battles, I've been through a lot of issues, and I've never seen my name on a chair like I've seen here. On some of these other issues, but a simple observation with the P3. We all want the nursing home. The previous government with Bill promised a new mount. Not one extra bed, but a new mount. But it never materialized. And then, after the election, recently, the Chamber of Commerce had a meeting with my friend Bill and asked Bill, why was there nothing in the budget for a new nursing home? And his answer was, well, our hands are tied. We are obligated to follow the Tory 5-year plan on nursing homes. Amazingly, this is just after the Tory government was defeated and the Liberals were elected. They're still implementing Tory policies. Then Gerard Lozier and his committee rallied 1,000 people to come to a meeting to demand a new nursing home. 5-year plan didn't exist. A new nursing home just came. So government will respond when their rear end is in the fire. Now the P3, as was mentioned by Kathy Rogers, she's new to this game too, so she may not have the same political skills that some of the more seasoned politicians have. But when asked, are there any politicians on the stage who will stand up for the Miramichi, I think that was the question, she was the first one to put her hand up. And then the others looked around and said, well, maybe we should put our hand up too. I saw that. That was kind of odd. But the P3, of course, is going to receive the same revenue per bed as the not-for-profit nursing homes. So as was mentioned earlier, why would anybody want to have an investment in a P3, in a privately owned, operated, when there's no excess, there's no profit? Well, the profit will have to come from the operations. There's no increased revenue. The profit will come from the operations. Will mean that all of you people are going to be fired. That's it. There's no this, let's get right down to the chase here. You're losing your jobs. You're losing your pensions. You're losing your severance. You're losing your future. And even if you do, with the goodness of their heart, have some of you rehired, they'll have to hire some of you. You're going to go back with lower wages, start all over again, trying to negotiate a pension plan, trying to negotiate a health plan, trying to negotiate a vacation plan, trying to negotiate a severance package, all over again. And all those years, some of you 20 and 30 years of your previous employment will just be eliminated. So they will start off with new, lower wages. They'll squeeze the profit out of the operating costs. They'll squeeze it out of the service to the old people. That's what's going to happen. That's how it works. The government says it's more efficient. It's not more efficient for the government. It's more efficient for somebody who wants to make a profit, makes $1 off caring for old people. Now, we've seen in the United States what happens when health care is for profit. 40, 50 million people that can't afford health care, to the point that Obama had to come in with a plan that basically provided private health care for these 40 million people. Still private, still for profit. That's why the United States healthcare system is the most expensive healthcare system in the world. In the world. And they're already looking at a company that has the headquarters in Paris, France. They're looking at a company that has the headquarters in the United States. These are foreign corporations. And there's a company that's in Canada that as well, I think is based in Vancouver. But they're supposedly very good at squeezing money out of the system. Everybody wants to be efficient. We want to be efficient in our own households. There's nothing wrong with efficiency. But if it's false efficiency, it's not real. What's the motive? This private company, which is coming in now by the end of October, is going to have the authority to tell the hospital corporation how many people to get rid of. You're looking at maybe 20 or 30 management people now. They're gone, they're not in the union. But the next 300 are all people who are providing the actual service. And if this company comes in and says, we can provide food services and housekeeping at the Miramichi Hospital with 20 less people, they're gone. And the contract means that Horizon Healthcare will have nothing to say about it. Oh yes, they'll be all dismissed by way of seniority, and there'll be lots of bumping and bumping and bumping. But that's going to happen all over New Brunswick. Because this company is going to be more efficient, but they're going to make their profit out of these efficiencies. Why can't we have these efficiencies within our publicly owned hospital? Why do we have to have a company do that? This was ordered by the minister. Ordered by the minister. I'm not telling you tales out of school, this is a fact. And the government should be proud of it, because I'm sure any government, and Jake, you were in government, any government, when they bring an initiative, they must feel it's for the good of the people, or they wouldn't do it. So everything that they do, no matter how controversial it is, should be something they're proud of. And everything they do should be the right thing to do. But sometimes they change. If selling NB Power was the right thing to do, all of a sudden they change their mind. It wasn't the right thing anymore. If taking the few dollars that old people had tucked in their teapots and their mattresses and squeezing that out of them was the right thing to do, no matter how controversial it is, it's something you do. But it wasn't the right thing to do. All of a sudden, that's all out the window. You know, we could solve a lot of these deficit problems with another cent on the HST. Can't do that. Every time you pick up the newspaper, you look at the paper, the Irving family says, you got to be more efficient, but don't consider a cent on the HST. You and I know that HST would be spread over everybody. $125 million revenue will come in from 1 cent increase on the HST. Who would mind paying an extra cent for a cup of coffee at Tim Hortons if they thought it would help save hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs? But corporations are saying no. Chamber of Commerce says no. I see they got a seat for them here too. My friends, this is going to go on, and it's going to go on. And our MLAs do have authority. They do have power. I was in caucus for 20 years. Government caucus is certainly different than opposition caucus, because opposition caucus, as Jake can tell you, it's more fun, because you just go and you don't have to take responsibility for anything. You just point out all the bad things that are going on. Or as my friend Sheldon said one time, when you're in opposition, you don't have to take responsibility for anything except the things that are good, and then you take responsibility for them. But let's go to the lumber issue. This is a Miramichi issue. This is not necessarily a New Brunswick issue, but certainly it's a Miramichi issue. 10 years ago, these trees keep growing. They've been growing for centuries. We just celebrated the 250th anniversary of the arrival of the Scottish settlers here in the Miramichi. William Davison came in here. He came here for the lumber. So it sustained our economy all that time. And you can walk up and down the banks of the Miramichi River and you can see the ruins of mills. Right here at French Fort Cove, the big smokestack, that was the Buckley Mill. Went kaput back in the 1920s. There's pulp mills that failed and so on. Cycles in lumber like anything else. But something that remained through all the ups and downs, the trees remained to provide an incentive for someone new to come in, to build a new factory, to create more jobs. But those trees are gone now. We look at them, it's growing, and then we look at them on trucks heading to Beldoon to be chipped and sent to Turkey or sent somewhere else. Our jobs. It is disgraceful. And 10 years ago, you had Acadia across the river going, UPM was going, Anderson's was going, Birchall's was going, the old Weyerhaeuser mill was going, Blackville was going, and there was wood for everybody. Where the hell did all the wood go? Because there's no wood for anybody now. There's no wood. It's like the emperor's new clothes. Oh, you know, there's no wood. So that was a policy of government. When UPM closed, and we all made an effort to keep it, as your mayor, I went to Finland with representatives of the unions and the Chamber of Commerce. Tanker, you were in Finland too, to try to convince them that, you know, we want you to stay here. We made a promise as a council we would not increase the tax rate for as long as they remained, as a gesture. But after they failed, all of a sudden a new deal come in, and the great wisdom. And this is a little history lesson, but we have to know how we ended up in this terrible conundrum we are now. In comes this Umar Solar. They were going to build solar panels. But they wanted to build solar panels on the old UPM site. Now, why would a company that's going to build solar panels want an old pulp mill? They wanted the wood allocation. They wanted the wood allocation. Now, what was the advantage? I mean, we saw this, they're going to create 300 jobs. And there was a $300 million financial package that was made available to them as well. $1 million a job. That's pretty sweet. They'd have been better off with just saying we're going to have a lottery. And we're going to draw out 300 tickets of the Miramichi people and make 300 millionaires right here. And the only condition is you have to spend all the money here in town. And the company turned it down. That's how insincere they were. So the jobs went from 300 to 200 to 100, and then finally we're not going to do anything. But the deal was they got to keep the wood allocation, even though they didn't do anything. And better than that, there was a little sweetheart deal in there that if they decided to go home, we'd give them, the taxpayers, $18 million as a going away present. Now, when the Conservatives got in, they negotiated that down to about 13 million. But as a result of that, we had the privilege as taxpayers of paying the cost of tearing down those mills. We paid the cost of tearing down the mills. And now we own the site, a brownfield site that who knows what it's going to cost to rehabilitate that site. Millions of dollars, when the companies that made the tens of millions of dollars of profits over the last half century should be paying to clean up that site. But they still have the wood. Then we had Bill saying, well, I didn't know anything about it because I was not in cabinet. It's a terrible thing. Every stick of wood that is cut in the Miramichi should be processed in the Miramichi. That's what he said. Mr. Albert, when he was in opposition, said that's a disgrace. Every stick of wood that's processed in the Miramichi cut in the Miramichi should be processed in the Miramichi. That was his position as well. So everybody was in agreement. Well, that didn't happen. The 22-year research, it was going to cost $50 million to break the contract. Well, we gave Atcon $70 million and didn't get anything for it. So it was going to cost $50 million to get back our birthright. Peanuts. To save an entire region of the province. Peanuts. Anyway, Mr. Allward decided to come up with a new forestry plan. And what wasn't then sent to Fornbo to be shipped out of Beldoon was going to go to Mr. Irving to be processed in his new $500 million mill down in St. John. Leading up to the election, our good friend Bill and Lisa and the others said, this is really should be closely looked at. We have concerns with that forestry policy. We have concerns. Didn't say what they would do about it. But after the election, we found out what they planned to do with their concerns. They said, it's a wonderful forestry plan. Mr. Kuhn brought in a bill saying, let's have a look at it. He was the only member to vote in favor of let's have a look at it. Mr. Denny Landry, the Minister of Natural Resources, said, it's a good plan, it's a job creator for St. John. So, you see the frustration? Giant corporations are basically managing the governments, whichever government is in, basically managing. Now, what can we do? What can we do now? Everybody here has a responsibility. It's the easiest thing in the world to just elect the most popular guy and, well, everything's going to be looked after. The schools are going to be open and streets are going to be plowed and the hospital is going to be there. But it does make a difference who we elect. The MLAs in Moncton are going to fight for Moncton. The MLAs in St. John are going to fight for St. John. The MLAs here are expected to fight here. And our influence is getting less and less. When I was first elected back in '74, I was only 26 years old then. You can get my age now if you want to. We had 58 MLAs. Northern New Brunswick had 24. Southern New Brunswick had 34. Almost parity. We had 5 MLAs here in the Miramichi. We're down now to 3. Northern New Brunswick only has 1/3 of the MLAs. And the southern part of the province, the wealthiest part of the province, has the other 2/3. Guess who's calling the shots? Moncton, Fredericton, and St. John. Now, what can we do now? The most fearful thing that politicians can hear is the word election. That's the thing that will make them perk up and listen every time. You had a sense of it last fall. Everything was wonderful. Everything was great. We're going to change this, change that, change this. There was no mention of closing North and South as schools that we just put in, probably between the two of them, $10 to $15 million no talk of closing Napan School. There was no talk of bringing in a company to run the nursing homes. There was no talk of getting rid of 300 people at the hospital to make food service more efficient. There was no talk of bringing in the laundry and so on and turning that over to Service New Brunswick, which means we're going to lose another 200 jobs. That's what's happening. It's going to happen at the end of October. The laundry that's in Facilicor. Facilicor doesn't exist anymore. It's going to be all merged in with Service New Brunswick, all the technology of the hospitals and everything else, and 200 jobs are gone. No talk of that. You have a vote. Everybody here has a vote. Everybody here can vote in confidential way, silently. You don't have to go and put a badge on or whatever. Because I know that a lot of people, as my wife used the expression, tend to hide behind the door and let someone else fight the battles. But there are people who will fight your battles, but they'd like to think that you're behind them. They really would. They'd like to think that there's a meeting, that the people who are going to be unemployed at the end of the month are going to be at the meeting. If it's nothing other than just to sit there and give a little bit of moral support, because it's not much fun to be 2 or 3 out fighting for you. I've heard it said, well, you know, more people didn't come today because it's a nice day. Well, after you lose your job, you'll have lots of free time to enjoy those nice days. Now, I'm talking to you as a lifetime Liberal, so I'm not bad-mouthing any party. But what I'm saying is that in New Brunswick, the Liberal Party federally and the Liberal Party provincially is the same. They operate out of the same office, they have the same Liberal Association president, they have the same Liberal Association executive for the province. The leader of the Liberal Party in Canada is recognized as the Federal Liberal Party in New Brunswick. When you see Mr. Gallant and Mr. Trudeau going arm in arm, it's not just because they happen to bump into each other at the mall. They're there because they want to be together, because they're showing common cause. Mr. Trudeau was down here to support Mr. Gallant in his initiatives, and Mr. Gallant is to support Mr. Trudeau in his initiatives. One and the same. Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad, but it's a reality. They're proud to be with each other. And that's why we need to have all the candidates here. We need to have Mr. Finnegan here. We need to have his opinion. Is he going to stand? I mean, it's not okay to say to Lisa and Bill, are you standing with us? But they're all the same. Brian said, well, I'm not going to be associated with any federal leader. And then, oh, well, I'm going to qualify that. Anybody who wants to give attention to New Brunswick's financial problems, I'll be seen with them. I'll be on the stage with them. So you're really not going to be with Mr. Trudeau, even though he was with you last fall. No. All of a sudden, Dominic LeBlanc, the real premier of the province, the real premier of the province was in the paper the next day. He will be on the stage the next time Mr. Trudeau's in town. And he was. He knew what to do. Did you know that I was told by a former cabinet minister, and confirmed in many other sources, that Mr. Dominic LeBlanc was involved in selecting the provincial cabinet? Did you know that? That he interviewed. Never known to happen in the history of New Brunswick. That the premier did not pick his own cabinet. So where is the power? Dominic is Mr. Trudeau's man here. I'm told that, for example, that one of the most popular persons that could ever run in Moncton, the mayor, was running for the Liberal nomination. And then there was another lady, a fine lady, she looks good on her posters. She was enticed to run because, and this came out of Liberal circles, Dominic did not want George LeBlanc as the candidate because he was too demanding on behalf of Moncton. That's why they didn't want him. And he lost the nomination. The manipulation has been going on, and I'm not going to get into anything that happened here but the manipulation is going on everywhere. So they're one and the same. So my suggestion to you, and I'm talking as a Miramichier, this is going to be a long, hard struggle for survival for the Miramichi. It's a time to set aside partisan politics. The person that we elect's first obligation is to stand with his or her constituents. That's where you get the most respect among your colleagues. And but some of them, oh, well, if I stand up, I'm going to lose my cabinet position, I'm going to lose my car, I'll lose my laptop, I'll lose my EA, I'll lose my assistant EA, I'll lose my things that stroke my ego. But you have to live with yourself. You have to live with your neighbors. You have to live with the people who had faith in you. You have to be able to go back to those people time and time again. I mean, I've had a few privileges that, yes, you bounced me out a couple of times and then you regretted it and brought me back. It's like putting my feet in the fire and then after a while you take me back and then, oh, we'll put them back in again. But I'm proud to say today that I can walk down the street after all the years representing people, and I don't have anybody want to come up and smash me in the mouth or anything. Because you have to stand with the people who elected you. Now on October the 19th is what I'm getting to. October the 19th is when the people of the Miramichi can initiate a little bit of action.
Absolutely.
That's when you can do it.
Absolutely.
Now, ask. Now, the federal candidates say, well, we're not involved, we're not involved, we're not involved. But there are lots of choices. There are lots of choices on October the 19th. Now, we can restore our dignity and self-respect by saying we're not going to let the government of Mr. Gallant and Mr. Dominique Leblanc roll over us. Because the plan is, you're not going to get really what the answers you want. The plan, you're going to get lip service and you're going to get patronizing, lots of patronizing, just like we had Thursday night. Oh, love the families, love you all, you're doing a great job. Oh, you're so sweet. You're going to get that. We're going to get that. Because the government, provincial government, is not going to be up for election for 3 more years. That's a long time. People have short memories. Their plan is, we will bring some goodies in there, they'll forget about that. We'll build a big hockey rink in Moncton, $25 million. We're going to borrow the money for that, by the way, added to that $450 million deficit. Because you see, that's good. They're going to be nice people that have money can go and watch the hockey team pay $30, $40, $50 a ticket. See Mr. Irving, his team will be competing against Mr. McKay's team at Harbour Station, and they'll all have little side bets and so on like that with our money. Okay? But there's no money for basic essentials. Now, let's show the people who are running, let's show our friends in government that the Miramichi does have a sting. We do have a stinger. And if you want to really shake up the provincial government, it's good to send letters and so on, but well, if you shake them up, you want to shake them up, it's really going to be a shocker if they don't get their way on October the 19th. Now, I'm going to close. A little bit of strategy. You have to talk, you have to organize. Nothing's going to happen by yourself. It's going to take money. You have to reach in. I know $5 we better spend at Tim Hortons, but $5 1,000 times over can do a lot. The poll is out today. Pick up the leader in New Brunswick. In the Maritimes, the Liberals are ahead, 40%. In New Brunswick, they're in 3rd place. Almost 300 people have been polled. They're in a bad third place. Now, at 28%. Now, considering that in other parts of the province, they're much more than 28%. Probably Dominic is going to get elected with a pretty good vote in Beausejour. But considering that, they have a lot of ground to cover here in Miramichi. You can let them know that there are consequences to destroying the Miramichi society. That's what I'm calling it, destroying the Miramichi. And I'm talking as when my family came here 250 years ago, settled up on Strath Adam and then moved up to Little Southwest. My wife's family came here 350 years ago. So we're here to stay.
Absolutely.
And we want our children to be here and our grandchildren to be here. And we don't want to have basically the most popular place in town, the senior citizens home, even if it is run for profit. So let's go out there and let's make people understand that the Miramichi is going to stand with dignity, stand with courage, and it's not going to be pushed around and silenced any longer.